So hello everybody, this is the WinterBlenderland competition entries finalists video. And we're going to be going through the top 10 today. So we're going to be working backwards from 10 all the way down to 3rd and 2nd and 1st place. It took us quite a while to get through all of the submissions and decide on a top 25, which you'll have seen some of the images show up on before this video. So we're going to introduce ourselves and then get straight on with the stream. So I'm Richard, and as most of you all know, me and Zach run True-vfx, and then we've got Zach.
Me, I'll get the shot. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm Zach, like he said, and I help him run True-vfx. I'm head programmer there at True-vfx.
He's the coder.
Coder.
Yeah, hi, I'm Charlie, and I joined the True-vfx kind of team as a tester of all the True add-ons, and then joined in with releasing my post-pro course where I teach some processing techniques for renders. And then we have Lewis.
Hi, I am Lewis. I'm a 3D artist specialized in environmental design.
Lewis is the cat, for all those wondering.
Yes.
Doesn't do a face reveal just yet. He's waiting for something else for that.
Yeah, he needs some more.
I need more people to know me first.
Yeah.
And then I'll do another cat.
He'll do a different cat, and then
but closer, a cat that looks close to your face, right?
Closer to
Nice.
me.
Maybe like a Mid-Journey.
just
I'm
like
really,
over
really
here.
waiting for that.
Each cat make looks
goodness.
more.
I'm learning all the skills to do that right now. So
Sounds
I'm
good.
ready.
He's ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight into just breaking down from top 10 all the way down to 3rd, 2nd and 1st place. And we're going to start with two renders actually who we couldn't decide on which one of them was 10th because they were both equally as good as each other. So we're going to jump straight into that, and I think probably who we're going to get talking about this one. I know there was quite a bit of discussion on this, so Charlie, do you want to start on this one?
Yeah, sure thing. First, I picked that as one of my top 10. And there are a couple of things I really like, and a couple of things where there could have been some improvements. If you take a close look at the cabin, it's really detailed. There has been a lot of attention delivered to that I like as a physicist, because there is frost on the windows and on the woods, but not as close under the roof and not around the chimney. And all these little details really add up and sell the image. And the snow in the front is nice. I like the stairs, and it tells a little story. But that's also where things get a little, where there are things that could have been improved. The overall composition is a little too centered, in my opinion. You just placed that cabin straight in the middle. Some little more tendency to one side would have made a better composition. Maybe include the goal, the hockey goal, I think it is, a little more. And also work on your trees. Because at the moment, I think these are all the same trees, just one model, and it's also a little weird that they are just placed along the normals, because trees, they just tend to grow towards the light, which is normally on top, and don't just follow the curvature of the mountain. But overall, this is a nice piece. I like the details in the grass and the snow and the rocks, and that's why it made top 10.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of good points, and I think we all kind of agreed on like the overall quality of the image was superb, and like you said, the only issues that we really picked up on was the trees kind of just being the same model, and we know that like this is from the pack that we give, but there could have been a bit of variation in the different models that we offered, and I think the other issue that we picked up on was this chimney. It doesn't look like it's part of the, or at least it's not the same quality as the rest of this model, this cabin model. But yeah, no, overall amazing image, and the detail around it, like the roof where this snow's melted, where it would be hot. Amazing attention to detail. So that takes us on to, I guess, the other number 10, which was the Northern Dream by Sarab.
Did we say who the cabin one was?
I believe it was Fred. All they named it was Winter Wonderland True-vfx.
Okay.
So I'll stick the name on post.
That's
on here.
There you go.
Nice.
So this one, we've got Sarab, and this is the Northern Dream. And I know Zach wants to talk about this one because this was
This was one of my favorites. I am a sucker for color, which is funny when you'll see later on. I think some of the ones we all picked had little to no color, but that's a difference. It's not the only thing I'm a sucker for, but when it has these greens, blues, and yellows in it, I just love to look at it. And obviously that's not the only thing, right? Then you start looking longer and you see, there's a mammoth in that iceberg boulder ice block thing, and then you're like, there's a person in the tent, and then camera, like, so all of a sudden there's this story that's coming about. So it's not just color, this really nice story that's coming together. This person is really interested. They've had a massive found. My only critique is that the mammoth should have been Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I just really think you missed that. And no, I'm just kidding. I think the main problems we saw that would have just made that next level is I think we boosted maybe some saturation in the snow in the lower right hand corner. There's some odd speckling because of, it looks like saturation booth. And then the ice, these big giant ice boulders are way too smooth. If you had if you just put I think a noise texture on the normal, it would have just given that nice crispness that I think that we were probably looking for. But I really enjoyed this image.
Yeah, it is a beautiful render. Like you said, there's only a couple of real issues, like maybe the snow, a little bit too much detail on the actual snow, and lack of detail. Ironically, lack of detail on the ice. But yeah, I think it is very nice. Both this and the previous one were, I think everyone agreed, were of similar quality. So we will. Anyone else got any thoughts on this one? Nope. Everyone agrees it was a very good render. So let's head on to number 9. This was the hiking trails. Again, I'll pop your name up in the top left somewhere. And this was one that I really liked. Charlie's just disappeared.
He's gone.
Charlie's just.
Can you hear everyone else, Zach?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. I can. Yeah, nice.
Okay.
So I probably cut the last bit out. We're back. So let's discuss number 9, hiking trails. I really like this one. So I'll discuss this one and the things that I thought really made it a good render, and why it was positioned 9. First of all, the lighting here is, in my opinion, absolutely exquisite. They've done a real good job of using these lamps and lighting them correctly. They've done a real good job with the shadows and the reflections. I love the fact that we go from sort of a golden colour down the bottom to a nice deep blue at the top with the moon, which I think everyone else could agree the moon probably could have been in the shot a little bit. But overall, this is just a really good render. They used a lot of the assets. There's a couple of assets that weren't blended with the rest of the environment as well as they could have been. But overall, I really like this. Now I know Zach and Lewis, you had a couple of points on this that you thought could be better. So do we want to go to Lewis first?
Sure. First of all, I would like to say I like how everything is placed. It's quite natural, but I think it's too much on the symmetrical side a little bit. And then again, pointing out that the stairs are not leading to anything else at the top. Just a little bit misleading somehow. You want your audiences to, their attention to be led to somewhere, but it's just nothing there. So just kills the excitement a little.
Yeah, it's kind of like a
that's basically
story in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Go on, carry on. Sorry.
No, I think that's basically it. For me, for my taste, the blue is a little bit too much bluish and it looks a little bit artificial, but that's basically just my opinion. But yeah, the oranges are really cool.
Yeah. Zach, did you
I
some
would
stuff to say,
disagree
yeah.
some actually with Lewis. I love the symmetry.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm a sucker for color.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I like that the yellow isn't like super saturated. Here it's kind of a more, it's a closer to white. It's not like they didn't push that blue yellow thing to the extreme.
Yeah.
But I love how blue the night is. I actually don't mind the moon not being in there. I love the symmetry. The main one that actually I didn't put in is that it feels unfinished. The rendering is so great, but because it leads the eye so perfectly to the top, and then it's like, it's just like, it's so unsatisfying because of that. Everything else is so good. It's so crisp. Like the colors are so good. It gives you the right feels, and then you get up to the top, and you're like, wow, nothing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, you can have a great movie, but if the ending doesn't if it doesn't come through, the whole movie is people are gonna leave with a that wasn't such a good movie. Even if the whole like first two acts are great, that if the third one falls, the movie's not gonna be great. So I think that was our big problem, was ultimately that the third act flopped.
We all would have
there's so many good elements in this.
We all would have just loved to see a little silhouette of something, a castle, or just something back there.
Yeah, even if it's just a person at the top. Like someone's climbing it, and there's, because you can quite clearly see, like, in the background there is other stuff going on, but it's covered by the mist. But it's like there just needed to be something. That line draws your eye perfectly to the peak of that hill, and then there's nothing on the top of it, which is just... Yeah, that's why you ended up at number 9. But overall, still a fantastic render.
Definitely.
And getting in the top 10 with the amount of submissions that we got, you know, amazing work. So let's head on to Fred's Delta Ice Storm render, the cabin in the woods. This one. So who wants to talk about this one? I know overall we all kind of had the same, like, this is the position it deserved to be in, and everyone was equally happy with the results. But there were a couple of nitpicks that some of you had.
I could go.
Yeah, Lewis, do you wanna point out the things that you noticed?
Yeah. So first of all, the details on the cabin, it's so sick. The way how the wood is peeled off. And the atmosphere is so good. I really love that light coming from behind everything else, and giving that ambient light from behind. It's just so good. But however, doing volumetrics, there's a problem with it. It's that it generates too much noise, and I think they might have used the optics denoiser, because if you zoom in, you can see some of the parts are very, very blurred out.
Yeah, painful.
So I think, almost, but not really too. You can really see that it's being denoised instead of being it really painterly.
Yeah.
So that's something that could be improved upon. And the fake light coming from behind, the other cabin from behind, that kind of doesn't make sense too much. Adding fake lights is such a challenge too. Trying to make sense out of it is the hardest part. So nailing that would have been a lot better. And yeah, the last point that I have is the point light coming from the car's headlights. They are way too small.
Yeah.
The source of it.
Yeah, the little hot spots. Yeah, definitely. And that is that's kind of all really that we like. Overall, it's an amazing render they've done.
It's a great render.
Yeah, really. The things that you mentioned aren't really necessarily like we're like, you know, like knock them down a point because they used optics, knock them down a point because we're the heck this like, right? If that's just, those are some of the things we notice about it.
Small
like,
mistakes, small mistakes, but everything.
Overall, as an image, we thought this was, I mean, obviously
really,
top
really
10. It's really good. And
I really love this.
Yeah, I think we thought as a whole that this definitely deserved the top 10. So again, don't like when you're looking at this, you're like, they knocked me down for optics. Like, no, that's not what happened. We believe that you'll see. Like, I think the next images are are really good. This definitely deserved a really good spot, and
No,
yeah.
I
So
really
don't think we're
love to-
knocking it down because of optics. Yeah, but that was, though I do believe this was. I think one of the things we were talking about is that this was kind of an earlier submission, and so I think that was kind of like you could have taken a little bit more time to maybe you couldn't, depending on your schedule, but in theory you could have potentially left it going a little bit longer for in order to get a little bit more detail in there for your optics.
Yeah, I mean,
because when I first saw this image, I literally just shared this on my Instagram too, because I really loved how everything is formed together. So I really love this image. It was just nitpicking, and those small little mistakes actually formed to something that didn't really make it to the top 5.
Yeah, more than anything, it's just at this point, it's like the refinement of the image,
Exactly,
rather
yeah.
than like actual problems. It's just a refinement, but like the detail, the storytelling, the amount of work that's actually gone into the scene. You know, we can tell that there was a lot of thought put into this. Like Lewis said, the odd the backlight or the point lamp or whatever that's lighting up that other cabin, that's a little bit like, how does that fit into the story? But the rest of it overall, superb. Really good work. Really good work.
Yeah. I think also one thing to notice, especially if people are looking at this in the future, a lot of our renders have these trees with these blocky snow blocks in them. We tried to ignore that because that was an asset, I believe. I don't think that was our asset.
I don't think it was ours. No.
But I think it
some
was
of them
one that
are
was so
ours, some of them are other people's.
Yeah, I think the ones with the blocky snow that looks almost like spider webs almost. I think we just decided to ignore that fact in a lot of these because that so many of them had them. So it's kind of like you're just trying to use what you got. So
it's like
we decided to ignore
that. It's a limitation of like the work
and
the
to some degree
workflow.
Blender.
Blender.
It's like we don't want to make people. We don't want to ding people for not spending enough money on assets.
Yeah,
I
or
think
like
to some degree,
like 4090s and things like that. Like we can tell, like,
right?
There are places where it is the way it is because of what it is. There's no two ways about it. Like, it's gonna look like that just because of what you're doing. So yeah, overall, I think we all agree this is an amazing render. This got into position 8. So we're gonna jump over to 7 now, which was Ayush's Howl, the castle. Yeah, this one's good. This is a nice one. Now, I don't really think there was much to like call out, but I know Lewis had some points, and Charlie, did you have some points on this one?
Yeah, I did too. Maybe I can just start with some things and leave Lewis to the rest.
Yeah, jump straight in.
Okay, first of all, nailing such big scales is always incredibly hard, and that one works so well. You can really tell that these people are just walking towards something incredibly big, something huge.
Yeah.
And there's so many details in that really work well. If you take a look at these footsteps behind them and really zoom in, you see they even fade out from where they were starting. And this attention to details is just incredible. I like that the back is lit, and that's where the main focus goes, but that's also where it lacks some real focus points. There's nothing in the back that really draws your attention. It's all bright, but you have that Buddha statue, and on the left you have that really bright spot, but nothing really catches your eye. And maybe some touch of color on the people in the front and a little less brightness in the back would have just made the people the focus point and the back not. And there's also, I don't know, it's just like random asset placement. We've seen that quite some times when they had to use that asset, and if you take a look at that little tree there's just this lantern standing next to it, and there's heavy snowfall, and who placed that there like 5 minutes ago? And but I also like the mountain, and I wanted to leave something for Lewis.
I think Charlie covered up most of the stuff that I have for this piece. But again, I want to point out that this big of a scale is really hard to pull off, and they definitely nailed it. One thing I noticed is that even though it has quite a lot of details in places, the white blank area in the middle is just too blank. I think a little bit of love around there would have been a little bit better, like adding some dead grass or more rocks in the middle to give that visual interest a little bit more, because the contrast is drastic. Like there's so much detail in the back going on, but in the middle there's nothing. But then again, in the front they are very detailed rocks again. So
yeah. I think overall we kind of had like the same, like Charlie was saying, a bit of colour here. And when we say colour, like we don't mean just like throw some rainbow vomit on. Like there is a lantern right there which could have been lit, and then if the characters were also holding a lantern, that would have added just like a nice orange glow and sort of give them a little bit more depth. Just some like rim lighting or highlighting or something going on. But like I think overall it is a really nice image. And scale is, like everyone said, scale is really hard to nail. And whatever you've done with the camera settings and the scene itself, you've really given us the idea that like these guys are very far away from like this huge castle thing in the mountain. Overall, a really good render. Where did they come? 7th, was it? Yeah, 7th.
Yeah.
Zach, did you have anything you wanted to tack on?
No, I think everything was pretty well covered.
Yeah, okay. Let's jump on then to number 6, which was Wintertide by Subran. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If not, I'm gonna pop it up on the left corner anyway. So this one, Lewis, I know you had a lot to say about this one. Well, we all did actually, because it's a very, very good. It's a really good render.
it's a really good render, yeah.
Yeah, there were a couple of things that we noticed that could have been handled differently, should we say. Not wrong, they're not wrong and they're not bad. It's just the things that we caught our eye. So I'm thinking, Lewis, do you want to jump on this one? Because I know you had a lot to say about this yesterday.
Yes. The colors, the bright orange and the blue, that contrast is so good. It's such a good color mixture.
Yeah.
And the story is great. Somebody's playing a guitar, they're just chilling by the campfire. It's so good. But however, I think the background is a little bit too much going on. We have a really detailed foreground, but also the background is kind of distracting us from focusing a lot more on the foreground.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is the mountains and the trees at the back, maybe if they were a little bit further or a little bit toned down, the contrast would have been a lot better, and the perspective of it is a little bit trippy, because right now we kind of feel like the mountains aren't that big, the ones that at the back, and feels like the lake is really small too. So because of the perspective, the scaling kind of it's throwing off the scaling a little bit.
Yeah, it's that vertical sort of panoramic effect going on, and
Yeah.
like if we look down at the boat, we can see that boat is, if we were to talk to scale, like less than 100 meters away from this couple. So we know the lake starts here and then it carries on all the way back here. Now, based on that, those trees are quite small, so we'd assume that that's quite far away, but that means that either the mountains are smaller than they look, and they're not as high as they look, or this depth is being distorted somehow. But yeah, no, agree, and I agree. There's too much visual noise going on in the background. There's quite clearly storytelling going on in the center right of this image, with this couple of people singing a song around the campfire, and like that's the story, that's the point of this. But then there's so much contrast and visual noise going on in the background, you don't necessarily notice them at first glance. It's only when you sort of pixel peep and go, oh, actually, wait, there's people actually outside.
Yeah.
Charlie, anything you want to?
Yeah. One thing I noticed is the trees in the back. They also look like really, really big. I think if they would have been way, way smaller, then maybe the scaling would have worked better.
Yeah.
Or just fade out that completely and just give subtle silhouettes in the back would have probably worked better. But it's still such an amazing piece, and the colors work perfectly together.
Yeah, there's really nice color theory going on in here. Zach, did you want to tack on your thoughts?
Sure. I think I just kind of agree with people. In my person, you could almost not say ignore because they're good suggestions, but if you just made the background darker and not as prominent, that would immediately bring the eye almost solely to the house. And then I think I would have also done a greater foreground blur on these, like the branches in the bottom right and top right. I think they're so close to the camera and we have such a long focal range, it made sense to also, they kind of get in the way almost, and so if they're blurred, the eye kind of goes more directly to stuff. And I think that would have also highlighted the trees on the left hand with the moon coming through. That would have been a nice little thing too if the background was darker. So that's just kind of my practical thoughts.
Yeah, at this point it's just nitpicking because we
nitpicking.
They're really good.
There's lots of stuff going on here. It's really nice. Yeah, this is definitely a feast of an image.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of hard work. You can tell a lot of hard work's gone into this. Okay, so you were number 6, so we're going to jump onto the top 5, and this is where it got really hard for us to make decisions. So
Very, very hard.
thank you all for that. At number 5, we have Winter Prayer by, I believe that's pronounced Eugen. If not, I apologize for butchering it. It'll be on the screen somewhere. So I think we all agreed that we love this one. And there were a couple of points that we all kind of had. But the first thing that we noticed was just the vast scale of this scene. I think we can all agree that it looks
It's
huge.
fantastic. Really big.
Yeah. So whatever you've done there, well done. Now, Zach, you and Lewis had some points to say on this yesterday, I believe. Maybe the bridge and the way the bridges were blended or something like that.
I thought it was an interesting way to work. When you zoom in on the bridges, they kind of just fade in. Honestly, I just thought that was like, I wonder how they did that. I just don't know. Maybe it's, they do that fancy trick where you blend the normals and the material somehow with the, I think there's a modifier that does it. And maybe you can do it with geometry nodes now, some special vertex color trickery. But that was the only thing with bridge I think I was talking about. Though, Lewis, I think you were talking about maybe more about maybe some distortions or something.
Scale and things,
yeah.
I think I was talking about the slope, more particularly.
You mentioned
we all were.
this angle.
The closer ground. Yeah.
Very steep.
I think it's way too steep for people to be able to walk down just like that without having to fall over or roll down. But that's basically it. I think overall, again, nailing such bigger scenes is so hard to do.
Yeah.
And they nailed it too.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
There's just so many. It just keeps going. Like this definitely
So many
feels
things
like
going on.
this is a massive landscape that we're looking at now.
Like
And
even the background, there's just so much going on in the background.
I think,
but it's
and
still not distracting the background. That's really
No.
important.
Yeah.
right. You look at it, you're like, oh, wow, it's big, but then you go right back to what's important. And even the red lanterns are really like it's fun to look at, and their size really helps make
Good
everything
element.
feel bigger.
Yeah, maybe a little too many of them, but still nice.
The only thing
usage of the fog is
oh
great
yeah,
here. Because of that, it really separates the foreground and the background, so they don't feel super distracting.
Yeah.
The background details are only popping out. Several areas which are needed to be popping out, but a lot of the things are covered in fog, which helps us differentiate the foreground and the background.
Yeah. And define the verticality too, because we can see that like this blanket of fog is where the ground or whatever it is, and it really shows just how tall some of these assets are. I think like we're not going to mention the trees because again this is just tree goop that happens in Blender when you try and put snow on trees. The only real issue, I say issue, is like this bridge. Now it looks like a duplicated asset, and when you've scaled it down, you've also scaled the texture down, which means like if these bricks are a certain size, let's say these bricks are this big, when you scale it down, you've now made the bricks this big, which kind of break the illusion of the craftsmanship in the object. But other than that, it's really good. It's really good.
One thing I just have to say is, mate or girl, whatever, we gave you stairs.
Yeah.
And you gave us like the steepest slope, and I was like, man, why?
Could have used some stairs.
I would have just loved to see these stairs here.
Yeah, you got stair assets and didn't use them, and then there were other renders that used stair assets on things that didn't need them. So
that was funny.
Yeah,
middle of nowhere.
We've just stairs in the middle of nowhere. So we've seen the stairs get used for things that they shouldn't have been. But you could have definitely had some stairs here. Like these two I don't know, ladies look like they're about to fall to their death. And she is, the one in the center who's in the middle of the slope is walking far too confidently for that angle. She's like, I've done this before, I don't care.
No big deal, Winners.
Yeah,
it's some sort of superpower too. But yeah, overall it's a really good render. I really love how we instantly focus on the big stuff on the right side.
Yeah, and it's that use of lighting, like they've lit what needed to be important, and immediately your eyes brought to that. And obviously there's lighting in the rest of the scene, but it's this nice soft indirect light that's just kind of touching everything.
Twilight.
This glow just goes, okay, this is the point that I want you to see, and the rest of it's just to make the image look good. So overall, a really good render. They were placed 5.
We are in the top 5 now.
We are in the top 5. Congratulations for getting to number 5. Number 4. This one was tough for us because this was either 3 or 4, and the two, number 4 and number 3, we ended up having to vote on because they were both equally as amazing as each other. So number 4 is Morning Haze, and this image is just so pleasant to look at. I don't know what else to say. Yeah. Go on, I'll let someone else take away while I just soak in this image for a minute. Zach, you like this one?
You always like screensaver or desktop things.
Actually, this is the one I didn't include at all. So I'm actually the only one here that didn't do it. You called on the wrong person. But I will talk about the things that are nice, right?
Yeah. So what?
Right, that are objectively nice, regardless of my personal opinion, right? And that is that your fog and your atmosphere is on point, right? The sun coming through or just trying to get through the clouds there at that one little spot that's a little bit thinner in the overcast area, right? And you have you even have if you zoom in, it's a little bit more red in that one little area, right? Where everything else is blue. Like there's some really, really good attention to detail of what makes one of these images look nice. Your deer models are very nice. The silhouettes are perfect, and it's not like a perfect silhouette, right? You did a really good job at making sure you can kind of see a little bit. You can, if you look at it, you can kind of see the nose and whatnot. A little blocky. I think maybe I would have thrown a subsurface there, or maybe I'm just seeing a weird angle right there at his chest. But your trees really help to fill the space. And show that the bank is right there. Is there anything else? I think our main problems with this were focus. The actual camera focus itself, you would imagine it would be on the deer, but the tree in the top left is more, it feels at least more in focus than the deer themselves. And that seems to be much farther back. And so we would have expected, and some of it's kind of like, is it the bloom that's actually making it look a little more fuzzy? Is it just what is it exactly? I don't know, but it definitely feels like the focus is not in the right place. And then this river, this icy river, has some food dye in it, and it looks fun, but it definitely throws me out of the image.
I think it's too blue.
Way too blue.
And I know you've gone for
it's like a swimming pool.
Yeah, you've gone for the whole, this is how ice is portrayed in films look, but not referenced ice in real life, because ice is just white or transparent,
white.
and then depending on its
translucent.
thickness, just makes it more translucent. So you've gone for the whole, I'm going to make it blue like an anime, and everyone's going to believe it's a frozen river.
But I think the textures are pretty well done on the ice though.
Oh goodness, yeah, like the actual ice material outside of it being
Displacement
blue
and
is
the normals,
really good.
really good.
Yeah. And I think, like Zach said, like the biggest issue is like, I don't know whether you've done the focus in camera or you've just thrown on some kind of like
Camera blur on.
camera blur like in
I
post
think-
or something.
Yeah, I think that is a post thing.
Yeah. Whatever it is, radial blur or camera blur, because like this is
Yeah, it could have been radio blur too.
Yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
see. It just almost like a vignette blur. Yeah.
yeah,
I guess
Yeah.
that's radio blur.
yeah, it's a little bit odd. And other than that, I mean, like, it's really good. You've used a nice variety of trees to break up the single tree model. This one with snow on, so we're not just looking at it going, it's the same tree. And the deer's again amazing. Like Zach said, maybe a subsurface modifier just to break this. I don't know if it is just like the shoulder joint and the neck joint.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it doesn't look as blocky, but again, that could just be because it's out of focus and whatever.
Hard to say.
But yeah, no, this is definitely a very good render. Anyone else got anything else good or constructive to say? I don't say bad, I say constructive. Anyone else got anything good or constructive to say?
Nah.
No, I think we're good.
Yeah,
I just want to reiterate that sun with the magenta hues adding in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, such a good. I don't know if that like was just naturally like just happened.
Yeah.
I doubt it because it feels very purposeful and intentional. And I just
It's
want to give you
really
props for
good
that.
when you.
and it's
think
subtle enough
it's
to
good
like
render.
they've not put this into Photoshop or Affinity or something and gone, right, let's just crank up the hue saturation of everything.
Yeah.
Like you
Except
can
for the river.
except for the river, yeah. Like you can see that there is this pinkish glow that's happening through the fog, and then it falls off to this nice white blue. But it's not in your face. It's not like someone's gone, I'm just going to make this as pink as possible.
It's winter.
Yeah, and it's blue as possible. No, it's a really good render, and we really love it. And yeah, there's very deserving of being in the top 5.
Definitely.
But that leads us on to the top 3. Drum roll. Let's go over to the 3rd place, which was from Hannah.
This one's one of my favorites.
Yeah, this one was actually one of our first too. I think this was like maybe the 4th or 5th submission. There's just something about this. This has got so much character.
So good.
Yeah, definitely.
This definitely is. This would be the best storytelling piece we've had in this
Yeah, absolutely.
competition.
Yeah.
It's so good, but just missed a little because of the lighting coming from the front of the car.
Yeah.
We don't really necessarily see the dead bunny, which is now the ghost beside the car. So
Right.
that's a great storytelling point, but they just missed it because the lighting is overwhelming the dead bunny.
Yeah.
Also, I wish the camera was panned a little bit to the right side so everything's in thirds.
Yeah.
We can actually focus more on those important stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, the detailing on the ground is insane. Love the story, love the stylized characters, which really match with the assets that we give too. They really nailed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the lighting's also great, except the part that it's overwhelming the dead bunny.
Yeah. It's also a little 2 points are fighting for your attention because you have that bright contrasty area on the right with the bunny ghost, and it is insanely strong lit on the left side, and some better composition would have really just pushed that to 2nd or 1st place.
Yeah, definitely. Just framing it ever so slightly, like Lewis said, more towards like less of the bunny rabbit trying to be in the center, because it's not in the center, but it's also not in one of the thirds correctly. And there's too much like dead space on the left hand side of the image. Like there is things there, but there's nothing there to add to the story. Like the rest of the scene adds to this story. So if it was more kind of like, I know cropped it a little bit, but if it was more closer to something like this, and like those said about the rabbit, like I picked up on the rabbit because I was like, hey, there's a ghost rabbit, where'd that come from? And then I followed the trail to the rabbit rather than seeing the dead rabbit and then following the trail to the ghost.
Yeah.
And maybe just a bit of contrast on this. There's been a volume used in here too, which is causing that weird denoiser effect.
Denoise effect, yeah.
And maybe that's what's washing the rabbits out a little bit because it's not bringing the contrast through the volume. You could have isolated this in Photoshop or something and just cranked the levels, the black levels slightly a little bit. That would have helped. Or position this character so his leg was casting a shadow over this area, maybe.
Oh yeah, something to kind of break that up.
Yeah,
just a touch.
that was what I was trying to say too. If the character was shadowing the dead rabbit, it might have a little bit of contrast and we might be able to see the rabbit. Maybe shine a rim light on the rabbit a little so it highlights what we need to focus on.
Yeah, just something.
But yes, that story would have been so good if it wasn't missed.
Yeah.
Just because of that lighting.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's missed.
Yeah, no, I think it's more like it's less of it being missed and more of it like
yeah.
Takes a little bit more to search for it to understand.
yeah.
It's not right in our face.
Yeah,
definitely.
it's not glanceable.
Yeah. And that's it was tough to rate this because it's so well done.
It is really well
There's
done.
so many good elements, all the trees. I mean, even just the fact that you have, I don't know, cloud, fog, something in that very back left,
Yeah,
top
there's
left.
like just stuff going on in the background. Like you've built the scene around it instead of just going, I'm just gonna put like a fake wall or something behind these trees. Like
Yeah, there's like
clearly
depth.
something going on. Yeah.
And it's pretty obvious that you like each tree feels purposeful. Like this tree covers this area, this tree shows depth by putting it in this open area, but further back and a little bit blurred and more dark. You know, like each one is like, you know, we're filling the scene purposefully and we're not just throwing a scatter on this mesh sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Another thing I noticed that I really love is the fluffy ball on top of the hat. I don't know what they're called, but that is so cute.
Yeah.
I want to run my hand through it.
I know these characters fit so well in this scene.
So
like,
well with this environment.
They're
So
very
good.
clearly stylized, but they're not
They're not out of
if that
place.
makes sense. Yeah, like they match the
They're not
rest
out
of
of place,
the
And also the expression on the, I think it's a little
Expression
boy
is great.
seeing the
whoever's in the car.
ghost.
Yeah.
It's excellent.
Yeah,
I think it's
very
a-
good.
Now, I know the girl, I believe,
Maybe
is
it's-
from the Blender Institute. And
That-
you can go
maybe
on
Where's the
and,
girl?
yes.
and you can download it. She's in the car.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh,
yeah,
That's
you're
a
right.
character you
you're
can
right.
download.
You're right.
And then I don't know if the guy is though. I don't know. I don't remember seeing him, but he might also be. Which, if they're both from the Blender Institute, props to you. Good job. Like, find that stuff so you can get like, you know, like we gave you assets, so you didn't have to fill the whole scene, and then you went and found these other assets in order to tell your story effectively. You didn't have to build a whole person, clothes, and rig them and make sure they deform properly. And you're like, you don't have to do all these things. You would that would be very, very smart.
I've
Especially
just
for a
noticed,
1 month thing.
I don't know if anyone else noticed this, and this is a shame because of the way the denoisers kind of broke this. But if you zoom in on her, just left underneath her chin, you can see her ponytail flick out with the inertia of her head turn.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Oh,
So like
That
she's
is
in
well
motion
done,
and
but-
the thing is flicking out, but it's not super noticeable just because of
a little bit.
whatever's
Yeah.
happening, like denoiser distortion or something.
Definitely some
It's
denoising
such a good,
artifacts.
it's such a good render.
Yeah, there's just so
Such
many
a good
details
So
that are
good.
going on.
Yeah. So Hannah, you have won the 3rd place prize. Congratulations to you. So we're going to jump on to number 2. We fought over this.
Yeah, we fought a lot over everything.
We did, yeah.
That's true.
So number 2. Number 2 is from Rickus. I believe that's his name or their name. That was their email, the in their name. So I'm assuming Rickus is their name. But Rickus gave us this, and this piece of work, chef's kiss. Oh, there's something about it. There's just, I can't. I'm gonna let someone else talk for a minute because I'm just gushing over this image. I love it.
Okay, I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, especially since I'm the one who said I'm a sucker for color. I'm a sucker for this, whatever this is. This is also what I'm a sucker for, right? Whatever you want to call it. It's not just like the black and white. It's everything. And like, first of all, this tells a story in two elements: person, mountain. That's it, right? It's effectively two elements. Now, there's a lot more that helps tell the story, but the person and then the pose looking at the mountain and the mountain kind of looming over them. So I think I wish the mountain was a little bit filled the top part of the scene a little bit more. That was more ominous, but I mean, wonderful. Two elements. You told a great story. It's something that we all understand and get through. I think some of the other elements. What is going on with the snow? How is it this good?
Yes, definitely.
Like, is it displacement? Is it just like some sort of like 40-90 tessellation out the wazoo? It's so like, I mean, it's crisp. Like you get like, this guy just stepped here. It's sharp edges. It's like, which isn't always accurate, but this is really well. It's not at the same depth each one. Like you kind of have like one's like more like this and one's more like this because you sometimes you're unsteady on your feet. Like it's so good. And then like even in the snow itself, it's not like, this is not a noise pattern. It's some generic noise pattern. There are cracks here and there as the snow settles. There is that ruffle noise kind of sort of thing. It has, I mean, I guess the whole image has a grain pattern on it, so that might help add to the detail. But this is the snow itself is really nice.
Good. It's so good.
Yeah. And so I think we were just like talking about like, and then like you don't just have a basic mist past here, right? That makes the mountain kind of feel like there's depth.
No,
you have 3D. Actual like wavy mist that kind of goes through. Yep. You have a cloud, almost maybe you could call it a cloud layer to some degree, a very thin cloud layer. It's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
This is simplicity at its best.
Yeah, definitely.
But which is funny because it's simplicity, but it's also incredibly complex.
It's also like detailed too. Yeah,
it's glanceable, and you understand
not
it.
Too much going on. That's what
it really could be a photograph.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Too. I think it's almost. This almost looked photoreal.
Yeah.
Just the mountains at the back are throwing a little bit, but then again, that's just a nitpick.
Yeah. I think they're too steep. I feel
They're
like
too
mountains
pointy
are
for the size.
Yeah, I feel like they're typically it's more a mountain's more squat,
squashed, and like bigger.
Yeah. It's not like
larger.
It's not typically like triangle.
Yep.
It's like obtuse triangle.
Yeah, it looks like they had a really nice height map, and then just skated along the Z-axis.
I think so.
A little bit, yeah. But it's so good.
Obviously, like we've everyone that we're talking about now, like we've received the blend files and vetted them. Everything in this scene is 3D, like everything. The fog, the mountains, the trees, the snow, the
snowfall.
The footprints are actually part of the geometry. Like it's all of it is 3D.
That is
and
so sick.
Yeah,
nice.
There's stuff in the background. There's stuff in the background over here in the scene, and like.
But is the snow?
The
snowfall.
The snowfall.
Like
I don't think it was. No.
That's okay. Which I think is a very common theme. I don't think almost the only ones that I saw that where the snowfall was real were they had big globs of snow coming from the from the sky. I was like, snowballs falling from the sky. But I think everything else in the top 10 the snowfall was.
These are the best post snowfall that we've seen. Like
you have layers
of layers. Yeah, like this is not just someone who slapped the brush on and then
they get smaller, they get less
smaller,
blurry.
Exactly. They're perfect.
Crisp.
This scene is so good. It's ridiculous. And you guys don't like you guys wish the mountains were a little bit more squished. I like the mountains like this because it's he's gone to find something, and these mountains are that thing that he's gone to find. Like these are odd mountains.
It could be a storytelling point.
And that's
I think I wish they were more ominous.
More
Again, this is more subjective, maybe.
Yeah.
I wish it was just they filled more of that top, so it is looming over him more. But
but the scale though, and the sense of scale and sense of depth and distance is really good.
One thing I would have wished for would have been the camera getting a little closer and the person getting a little more down into a third, because at the moment it's quite centered.
Yeah.
And if he would have moved the camera a little closer to the person and getting him in the third and showing us some more of these mountain ranges with a little less empty space on the top and a little less just footsteps and stones again on the bottom, that would may have been first prize.
Yes, it was a very first and second were very close.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly the composition that was just incredibly on the first one. And the composition here is just a little weaker.
Yeah, and we're not saying it's weak.
Yes.
We're saying
Exactly.
that it's,
Relatively speaking,
we're
yeah.
saying relatively when comparing to the first place. These were the
Yeah,
things
you
that
will see.
our deciding factors were like. Obviously, we can't just say you didn't get first place because we thought it was rubbish, because that's not the case.
No.
And it's like when we compare it to what we were looking at, these are the things that made us go, "Ooh, it's close," but this is a second.
Yeah, you have to be objective to some degree and be like, okay, what are some things that we can like and because you have to be like when we have renders at this level, you have to be okay. We have to be nitpicky in order to put it in an order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was tough for us. Like we had equations and all sorts going on working this out.
Equations, votes, so many things.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So, Rickus, you got second place. Congratulations. Woo!
Nice one.
Let's jump on to first place, which is upsettingly, offensively good.
Yeah.
There we go. Right.
Let's just all take a moment and appreciate that masterpiece, because
First
in my
place.
opinion, it's just a masterpiece. Yeah.
Oof. This is just, so we are now looking at something that is special.
This is crazy good. So many details going on, but it's so clean. They're so crisp.
Yeah.
It's not overwhelming our eyes, like the amount of details. This is how we detail things, to not overwhelm anyone who's looking at the art, but also appreciate the amount of details that's going on.
Yeah.
For example, the emission going on within the antlers is insane.
Nuts. Whatever
Yeah.
this is
It's so good, and the surf that is going on with the icicles that is dripping down the deer, just insane. I don't know how you do it. And one more thing is that not a lot of people like to use golden ratio, and they used it here. This is I've never seen anyone use those ratio in renders, especially.
it's
And
nuts. It's
Not
absolutely
in
nuts.
such a
really
perfect
nice.
manner.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Look at stuff growing on top of that root.
I know.
It's insane.
It's crazy.
I think they used every of our asset too, except for the textures that we provided, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
and
use-
also
I think
They
every
just-
single thing.
they just blend in so perfectly. It's not just they
Exactly.
had been dropped because they needed to be in there. If you take a look at the stairs and at these lanterns there, and even at the, what are these colors called in the back?
pergolas or the pagodas. Yeah, these vertical
Towers.
towers.
Yeah, they just all look like they belong there, and it feels like everything is there on purpose.
Yeah, it's
This feels so cold.
yeah.
Though there's no blue in it.
And this,
Yeah, I
which
think-
is- go on, Zach. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, I think that was the only thing that we actually ended up saying, like, I mean, if we're gonna critique this at any amount, it was kind of like the green tint, which I believe is this artist's kind of thing. That's kind of like their typical
The
thing.
art style. Mhm.
Yeah, the art style. That's the word. Is that the green does it does kind of go away from the Winterland kind of thought of it, but every other element brings you back, right? Like you said, it still feels cold, right? The mist is as a cold. It's not like a vibrant spring green either.
No.
It is a colder. There's some blue. There's a little bit of blue. It's not saturated green,
Yeah.
right?
It's not matrix green, but it's not.
Right, but then again, like I said, every other element, you have the ice antlers, you have the icicles coming off the deer, like just the amount of white stuff that comes in and makes it feel cool. And even though that the green kind of gives you more of it doesn't make it feel spring, it makes it feel like we're in nature.
Yeah.
While it's cold,
It's
misty,
so good. It's like
dreary. Yeah,
the way the antlers, and I know we've mentioned the antlers several times now, but the way the antlers actually, they don't just, these don't just like go up and then clip through. Like the antlers actually grow around this,
interact.
whatever this root thing is, and get down towards the left side of it. Like the whole thing has been so well planned and so well thought out. This string emission, whatever they're using here, curves or particles or something.
That's definitely some geometry nodes magic.
Yeah,
That's just pure magic.
and this is the other thing we're forgetting too, is like, and I think a lot of people will forget this when we're doing this video, like the requirement for this competition was that it has to be done in Blender. And we're looking at some of these images which are close to photoreal, and a lot of people go, well, Blender can't do that. Well, Blender can. Like, we've seen these, we've been inside of these files.
Check the blend files.
Like this is Blender, and it's so impressive what people can do. It's just, this render is just so good. It's so well thought out. It's so well planned. There was clearly a vision here. Like when they did this, they went, I know what I want to do. They didn't just throw assets in for the sake of throwing assets in. Like the plants that they used, which like we never give them, but like these ferns make sense. These big leaf ones make sense. There's not like roses and other random colored flowers. Like everything in here is specifically tailored for this scene. Like even these glowing mushrooms or whatever they are.
Yes, just wanted to notice or point to them.
Yeah, it's so good. And I don't think outside of like maybe a bluer hue, that was our only critique.
And
That's
it's
the only thing we
also
could
only
potentially
nitpicking
think.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then again, it really sells the coldness and the winter vibe. It's just
Regardless,
green. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still,
And they didn't overdo it with the contrast.
no,
And
they didn't.
Yeah.
they didn't overdo it with that typical HDR filter where everything's the same exposure. Like everything in here.
Yes, it is so important to just have contrast fade out in the distance.
Yeah.
And this has been something that, if you remember the castle one, there was a lot of contrast on that big castle and Buddha in the back, and here it just feels more natural, more real.
Yeah, it's a good fall off. It's insanely good. So I guess Oren Cloud, you got first place.
Well done.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, man.
Honestly, a spectacular piece of work, and we were all very surprised, and we feel, to a degree, like we feel honored when people send us work like this, because they put the thought in, they put the effort in, they put the quality in, and it's great for us to actually be able to sit here and look at this and say, you know, someone did this based off some of the stuff that we gave them and the prompt that we gave them. It's just really, it's a
We
great
feel
piece.
honored. Yeah,
we did.
it's kind of like we feel honored that you would, all
Grace
of
us
all
with
of you,
this. All of us.
now all of you would put so much effort into this competition and make it what it was, and give us such a chance to goggle at and love all of your work.
Because it's like even if you didn't make it into the top 25 or the top 10, every single piece of work that came through to us, we could tell there was an effort put in. Like it wasn't.
Yeah, definitely.
We didn't just look at them and go, wow, you've put no effort into this one. Some of them might not have been as great as others, but we can tell that the thought and care went into them. And if we were just judging the competition based on how much effort people put in, like everyone would be first place. Is all we can say for that. Because honestly, some of the submissions were really, really well thought out, and it's just, you know, this, how we ended up getting here was through a lot of deliberation and lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee.
Yeah.
We're across almost the entire range of
Time zones.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's morning for some of us and it's night for some of us.
It's afternoon for the others. It's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think overall, I'd like to say that this whole thing was successful. I think there was a lot of amazing work. One thing I would like to say is none of you tagged us on Twitter. There were only 2 people that tagged.
Yeah, on socials.
What is wrong with you people?
So
Yeah.
like we couldn't. We wanted to give away like loads of freebies, and none of you tagged us to get these freebies. So what we're probably going to end up doing is emailing those that won, and then everyone that sort of participated, check your emails, because there'll be a little thank you in there for that too. And this is going live on the 14th, so you technically may have had the emails before then. If not, they may be going in after.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Hug and kiss the ones you love.
Hug and kiss the one. Yeah. Okay. and if you have no one to kiss, I'm so sorry.
Wow.
Oh,
You better cut that bitch.
Sorry.
why would you say that?
Is there anything else that we'd like to discuss, guys?
Yeah, I don't know. We could just we offered that we were drawing just people from social media and give out true assets or post pro. I think let's just draw like 3, 4, 5 people from all the submissions that have not won anything yet, and we just give them choice between post pro and true assets.
Some of you's gonna
That's
get some
fine with you,
freebies.
Rich.
Yeah. Fine with me. Yeah.
Checking your emails. Hopefully you gave us a real email.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
you get a real-
otherwise.
I don't want to get anything back from Domino's.
Yeah, and if I get subscribed to anything weird, I'm gonna be falling out with you guys.
That's right.
So we're gonna cut the video there. We're gonna put all of the submissions up, or most of the submissions up now, and just flicking through. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you all for participating. There's a goodbye from us.
All right. Until next time. Thank you
Until
all.
next time.
Next
Bye.
time. Bye.
Bye. Bye.